You grab a frozen pizza after a long day, toss it in the oven, and feel good about the choice. Fast, affordable, and honestly, kind of delicious. But what if the pizza you trust the most is made with ingredients you would never knowingly put in your body? What if the brand with the cheerful logo and the comfort food promise is cutting corners so aggressively that calling it food feels generous? Stick with me through this entire video, because once you find out what these brands are actually putting inside those boxes, you will never walk down the frozen aisle the same way again. Let us start with DiGiorno, the self-proclaimed delivery alternative that tens of millions of American households keep stocked in their freezers, right up until you find out what is really going on beneath that puffy crust. DiGiorno has long marketed itself on the idea that you are getting something close to restaurant quality at home. But former production line workers have noted that the cheese blend used on many DiGiorno products contains a significant proportion of cellulose, which is essentially processed wood pulp used as an anti-caking filler. That stretchy, satisfying pull you think is real mozzarella has a lot more going on behind the scenes than the commercials would ever admit. On top of that, multiple customers have shared photos online showing nearly bare pizzas with sauce coverage so thin it barely touched the edges. One Reddit user described their DiGiorno pepperoni pizza as looking like someone sneezed tomato paste on cardboard and called it a day. Another simply posted, "I paid for pizza, not a cheese cracker." As for safety, FDA records have flagged processing facilities linked to DiGiorno products for temperature inconsistencies during freezing cycles, which creates windows where bacterial growth becomes a very real concern. DiGiorno stays popular because the marketing is genuinely brilliant and the price feels like a deal. But marketing is not mozzarella, and a good slogan does not cancel out what is actually inside the box. Next up is Totino's, the party pizza that practically every college student and budget-conscious family has eaten at some point, and the one that deserves a harder look than it ever gets. Totino's pizzas clock in at a price point so low, it should raise immediate questions about ingredient quality. Those questions have real answers. The meat used in Totino's pizzas is often a highly processed blend that contains textured soy protein mixed with actual meat, which means what looks like crumbled sausage is partially a manufactured meat substitute that was never advertised as one. Consumers have not stayed quiet about this. A viral post on a food forum showed a Totino's party pizza straight out of the oven, with a crust so pale and doughy it looked more like foam padding than food. Comments ranged from "my dog left his bowl to finish this" to genuinely impressed that something legal can taste this artificial. Beyond the jokes, lab analysis of certain Totino's products has shown sodium levels so elevated that a single pizza can push you close to double the recommended daily sodium intake in one sitting. Totino's works as a product because it is cheap, fast, and nostalgic. But cheap has a cost, and in this case, you are paying with arteries. Let us talk about Red Baron, the brand with the World War I fighter pilot branding, and the implication that there is something bold and high quality about their product. There is not. Red Baron leans heavily on its retro aesthetic to suggest heritage and craftsmanship. The reality is that their classic crust pizzas rely on a dough formulated with multiple dough conditioners and preservatives, designed to keep the product shelf stable, not to create an authentic pizza experience. Insiders from large-scale pizza manufacturing have confirmed that doughs like these are engineered entirely for cost efficiency and for survival on a truck, not for flavor. A customer review on a major grocery platform described the cheese on a Red Baron pizza as melting into a single uniform sheet, with zero texture, comparing it to what a plastic bag would look like if it got too close to a radiator. Red Baron facilities have also appeared in regulatory documents tied to findings of inadequate sanitation practices during audits over the past few years, Red Baron sells on nostalgia and that vintage pilot image, which is clever branding, but nostalgia does not make preservative-packed dough taste like something a human being crafted with care. Moving on to Tombstone, another legacy brand that trades entirely on the idea that this is cowboy country, hearty, no-nonsense pizza, except the no-nonsense part applies to how little they care about actual quality. Tombstone uses a sauce that food researchers have flagged for its high concentration of corn syrup solids, which means the tomato flavor you are tasting is largely sweetened and manufactured, rather than derived from real tomato reduction. Workers at facilities producing Tombstone have described the cheese application process as so automated that it results in wildly uneven coverage, which explains the countless consumer photos showing half a pizza completely bare. One commenter on a grocery review site wrote that their Tombstone looked like the cheese tried to escape and almost made it. When health inspections have been conducted at associated manufacturing sites, findings have included residue buildup in equipment that contacts food directly. Tombstone persists because the price is low and the Wild West imagery feels hearty and satisfying. But there is nothing hearty about corn syrup standing in for tomato sauce. Next is Screamin' Sicilian. The brand markets itself as a premium, overstuffed, almost artisan frozen pizza, and it charges accordingly. Yet the gap between the packaging and the reality is almost theatrical. Screamin' Sicilian positions itself as the rebellious, generous pizza brand. The packaging shows mountains of toppings and cheese. The actual pizza frequently looks like someone described those toppings to the factory floor, rather than applied them. Reports from consumers consistently mention dramatic shrinkage of toppings during baking, which leaves the final product looking nothing like what was advertised. One buyer described it as opening a treasure chest and finding a parking ticket inside. More concerning is that for a brand charging premium prices, the ingredient list still contains several artificial flavor enhancers and preservatives you would not expect to see at that price point. Third-party testing has also identified inconsistencies in the claimed protein content on certain Screamin' Sicilian varieties. The brand survives on its loud personality and Instagram-friendly packaging, but loud does not mean honest, and oversized branding is not the same as oversized quality. Let us get into Newman's Own Frozen Pizza, a brand with a genuinely feel-good story and a charity-linked reputation that makes criticism feel almost wrong. But that reputation has been doing a lot of heavy lifting. Newman's Own benefits enormously from its association with charitable giving and Paul Newman's legacy. The pizzas are priced in the mid-range and carry an implied health-conscious image. However, consumer testing and nutritional analysis have shown that several Newman's Own frozen pizzas contain sodium levels and saturated fat content comparable to far cheaper competitors, which contradicts that image. Customers have posted reviews noting that the crust often comes out dense and undercooked in the center, even when following exact oven instructions. One reviewer said it tasted like eating a hockey puck with marinara aspirations. From a regulatory standpoint, supplier audits connected to ingredients used in Newman's Own products have flagged sourcing inconsistencies that raise questions about whether ingredient quality matches the premium positioning. But charity affiliation and a clean logo do not guarantee what is inside the crust. Geno's Pizza Rolls, while technically a pizza snack rather than a full pie, earns its place here because millions of households treat these as a pizza substitute. The inside of a Geno's roll is a study in what the bare minimum looks like. Geno's uses a filling composition that contains mechanically separated chicken combined with textured vegetable protein and enough sodium to cure a side of beef. The ratio of actual identifiable topping to filler material is not something the brand publicizes for obvious reasons. Consumer complaints frequently reference rolls that explode in the oven and release a filling that looks nothing like the appetizing photography on the bag. One buyer wrote, "The inside looked like the aftermath of a science experiment gone wrong." Health inspection records tied to facilities producing these snacks have documented issues with moisture control during production, which is a significant food safety concern for a product designed to be served to children. Genos thrives on convenience and low cost, but convenience is only a value if the product is actually safe. Finally, there is Palermo's. The brand presents itself as family-owned and artisan-influenced, with roots in Italian-American tradition. That tradition apparently does not extend to their ingredients. Palermo's uses a dough base with a significant preservative load and a cheese blend that testing has shown contains a noticeably high percentage of non-mozzarella fillers, including modified starches. Consumer reviews describe a crust that becomes either rock hard or completely soggy with no middle ground. One reviewer likened cooking a Palermo's to a coin flip between a frisbee and a wet napkin. Facility reviews have also produced findings related to labeling accuracy, raising questions about whether ingredient percentages on the packaging match what is actually used in production. So we have now gone through 8 frozen pizza brands, and the story threading through every single one of them is the same: speed over substance, image over integrity, cost savings, wrapped in comfort food packaging. The frozen pizza aisle is built on the promise that you can have something good quickly and cheaply, but quick and cheap come at a price, and that price is paid by your body, not the brand. Here is the bigger truth. Food is supposed to serve you. It is supposed to give you energy, nourishment, and yes, genuine enjoyment. The frozen food industry will not always volunteer what is inside the box. They count on your trust, your habit, and your hunger. That is exactly why conversations like this one matter. If this video gave you something real to chew on, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still reaches for one of these brands without a second thought. Thanks for watching, and remember, the label does not always tell the whole story.